Welcome to the Teep Show, a show for UFC veterans and casuals alike, where we break down the latest comings and goings of the week in UFC and MMA around the globe. This is Teep Show 7. Teep Show
7.
Can't get past
Keep it
this.
rolling.
This is Teep Show 7. Thank you for the correction. And I'm Alex. This man to my left is Jonah, or J-Man. We're going to get right into it, breaking down what was a action-packed fight night this weekend. Not only do we have Sean Brady versus Gilbert Burns, which we will get into, but we had Natalia Silva versus Jessica Andrade, a little bit more action-packed entertainment than you usually see on a Apex fight card. Jonah, I thought that this was a massive, massive fight for both men. Gilbert wanted to stay relevant, obviously coming off the JDM loss. Sean Brady had his first chance to break into the top 5.
I love Gilbert. It's been over. Okay, everybody knows that.
When was it over?
Been over. I'd say 2 losses ago when he didn't swing a single combo after his Hamzat fight. Like even in the Masvidal fight that he won easily.
Yeah.
Looked more tentative and patient than I've ever seen him, and that's not what made him dangerous. And
That's
so he had some like defensive technical striker come in and evaluate his striking defense at Killcliff. He's talked about this at length in his podcast. Could not have been worse for his career. Could not have been worse. That's why we're on a 3-fight skid, and he's 37, and it's over now. And I love Gilbert, by the way. He's one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. But still, tough test for Brady, and passed it with flying colors. I know it wasn't, a fucking fight of the night or anything like that. But when you can outstrike Gilbert, who is still a pretty good striker, and then outgrapple a legit jiu-jitsu world champion, it probably means you're pretty fucking legit. And you and I have spoken about this. I would probably take Brady over almost anyone in the division at this point, but we can get into that later.
A little bit of a snooze fest, Jonah.
I didn't say that. I didn't say it wasn't, but Brady passed the test big time.
I think that's the way to present this. This was a test passed for Brady.
That's
Obviously, we thought he was going to be the second coming of Jesus Christ before.
He might. He still might be. I think he is.
Well, actually. we were laughing because who gets knocked out by Bilal Muhammad?
Sure, right.
But that loss, as everybody should
Aging
know,
well.
has aged very, very well.
Yeah.
J-Man, what's Brady's ultimate ceiling here
Champion.
at 70?
Champ. I think look, obviously some of those fights at the top are tough. Bilal's a tough fight. I mean, I know he obviously lost to him. I'd favor him in a Bilal rematch. It would the whole thing would take place on the feet, just like the first fight did. And I think Brady in this fight, and especially the Kelvin fight, and Kelvin's a pretty good striker too, looked fucking sharp on the feet. I think, and he's a more diverse striker than Bilal. I think he'd kick more. I give him that one. I give him Usman for sure. If that were to happen, I doubt it. I give him Gary for sure. I take Brady over Gary 5-0. And then the debatable one in my own head, and I'm sure you'll disagree, and that's fair, is Shavkat. And it might just be recency bias to an extent, because when you see a 50-45 performance over a top 5 guy, it's kind of hard to imagine him losing. And we haven't seen Shavkat in a while. But just off the top of my head, I think Brady could clinch against Shavkat and get him on the ground eventually. Like I don't think there's been points in Shavkat's fights where I'm kind of unimpressed that he is letting his opponent back him up against the cage for like prolonged periods of time. And obviously he finishes the fight eventually, so it doesn't matter. But when it's Sean freaking Brady we're talking about, and he's so damn big, like like people sleep on that. He might be the
He's
biggest
massive.
guy in the division.
Massive.
Just fucking like pit bull, muscle ball.
Yeah.
And so I think if he like gets his hands locked around you, I think it's a wrap. No matter who you are, what credentials of international grandmaster of sambo you have, I don't care. I think I'd take Brady over anybody right now.
That is so hot that I want to circle back to it, maybe as its own segment. We're going to do this live. We're going to come back to that. But first, in the soap opera that is Conor McGregor, he wanted to come back in December. Dana said no. The new news on the street is that Dana expects Conor to return in early 2025. Jonah, I know you are so sick of talking about this, so I'll just ask you one percentage question. What are the odds that Iron Mike Chandler is standing across from Conor for that fight?
Ooh. It's funny. I looked at Dana. I didn't watch it, but I looked for Dana's quotes from his interview that he did. What was it, today or yesterday, on the situation, and was specifically looking for if he said Chandler would for sure be the opponent. Did not clarify that, which he's done every single time beforehand, by the way.
Right.
I not only does it have a 50% chance of happening, but it also only has a 50% chance of Chandler being his opponent, I think. Like I think they could move on. It's been a long time, man.
It's been a while.
And I don't think anybody cares anymore. It was fun a little bit. I didn't even like it at the time, but it was I got it. It was cute. Chandler's a Captain America promoter or whatever. But he hasn't fought, and we saw his last fight. We saw his last fight almost 2 years ago at this point, and it was an L, and it was a fat L.
It was a
little
fat
sub
L.
home. So I don't think anybody cares.
I wouldn't say it was a fat L. It was one of my favorite fights of all time.
It was an L for him.
It was definitely an L.
You don't get a McGregor fight off an L like that. Whatever. I'm not going to get into that. But there's no way anybody cares anymore.
I think he's been pulled around so much by Conor. When you said how long it's been since the fight was announced to today, they filmed an entire reality TV show and broadcasted it. And that all happened, was it in 23? Was that all last year that it was filmed?
It was filmed, I believe, in spring 23.
Oh, my God. So he's done the whole, Conor shoved him. Ooh, frat boy, go crazy. But it's been 2 years, and Chandler was long in the tooth when he came over to the UFC from Bellator. It's tough for him to look that Conor payday, that red panty night. That's tough to pass up. But at some point, he's the sixth ranked lightweight in the world. He's seeing a guy that he starched on his debut just passed him in the rankings. At some point, you got to wonder from the competitor in him, how much longer can he wait for a guy that just kind of tweets at him? It's kind of like a Donald Trump Jr. type thing, just like pithy tweets. And is that going to, he's ready to go.
He would probably take that as a compliment, by the way. But Chandler, I think Chandler, at this point, if you are Chandler, fuck being a competitor. Like, what was he, 2-4 in the UFC? Like, this is about the payday, baby. Like, you're almost 39.
Yeah.
It's about the money at this point.
Are you waiting?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. I think who comes in and says it's not you, Chandler, would be the UFC. I don't think it's Chandler changing his mind.
Well, who would say it is Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor would say, "Oh, it's Dan Hooker," and the UFC would say, "Yes, sir. Yes, it is."
Yeah, that's right.
And they would call.
Well, the UFC would agree with him, frankly. And I think if I were Dana White and the UFC brass, I would just cut Chandler the check. Just cut him the check.
Just a release bonus. Say you did a good job.
It's like a severance package, basically. Yeah,
for sure.
Like,
for sure.
Sorry, but it's over now. Just cut the check. I don't know how big the check would need to be, to fill the void
Yeah.
of the best 3 years of wasting his career.
Probably a milli does it, right?
No,
It's not what he would get
It's
for fighting Connor, but
it should be though.
2 paydays.
It should be. It should be big. They can't. They did him bad if this fight doesn't happen. It should be. I don't think it's gonna happen though. That's my final answer. Speaking
of it's all over, one of the goats of the sport, Demetrius Johnson, announced his retirement in a very voice cracky manner in a one cage this past weekend. Jonah, just real quick. Well, I'll give a quick bio. He's got the best submission of all time. The Ray Borg suplex to the flying armbar, best submission of all time. He almost single-handedly killed the flyweight division himself because he was so dominant and had so little opposition during his run. They couldn't generate any interest. I mean, not that flyweight's exactly like the bread and butter of the UFC today, but the fact that he ran up, I think, 10, maybe? I actually don't know the number, but it was close to, if not 10 double digits. He was active. He was an amazing fighter, good on the feet, lost some controversial splits, and he is a GOAT. Specifically, Jonah, what kind of GOAT? Is he a Mount Rushmore GOAT for you? Where does he rank?
It depends on how everybody has a different definition of GOAT. Like you could put McGregor on your Rushmore if you're talking impact on the sport.
No. I'm not talking Dana White, Ronda Rousey.
Right, yeah.
No, I'm talking best to ever do it.
Yeah, he's on there. The way I think about DJ is like the Roger Federer of mixed martial arts. Like there's other guys that are like highly specialized at certain things, such as Khabib. You would just take you down at will, and that was what he did.
Yeah.
DJ, again, like Federer in tennis, like did not have a weakness anywhere in his game, and especially to be that skilled in every area of the sport, a decade ago, more than a decade ago, when the sport hadn't even evolved to where it is now, and he still looks like, just skill-wise, probably the best mixed martial artist that has ever existed. So yeah, he's for sure on my Mount Rushmore. And you mentioned a couple of his split losses were bullshit. So yeah. that guy's one of the best to ever do it.
Cejudo was a complete
bullshit,
complete bottle job. That concludes our Around the Horn. Not a pretty quiet week, all things concerned. Not a lot of action ahead of the UFC Noche Riyadh season. The Sphere is so expensive that they had to get Saudi money to come sponsor it. Dana says this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to witness the evolution of the Mexican. I don't know, man. The evolution of the Mexican warrior.
Don't care.
The history of Mexico. It's there's going to be a movie in it. No one cares. All that we care about are the next 5 fights that we're about to preview.
Bingo.
I mean, almost literally, unless you care about Irene Aldana.
Nope.
Okay.
Keep it rolling.
All right, and we go on straight into it. UFC Noche 306, one of the best cards in a while. Very excited for this one. The only fight I actually love. There's only 10 fights.
Yeah,
you know this. Yeah, I love there's only 10 fights. I think that's great. I doubt that will be the case ever again, but. Because this one's so expensive. They went to 10. That means the only guy on the early prelims is Aoriqileng against the star Raul Rosas Jr. Mexican-American. He is 19 years old as we speak. Aoriqileng is 3-3 in the UFC. Rosas is 3-1 in the UFC with 3 very impressive wins. 2 very impressive wins off the bounce after a very deflating performance against Christian Rodriguez. But, Jonah, as we say every once in a while, he's 19 years old.
Here's the thing. A couple of years ago, I watched Aoriqileng lose at flyweight to Jeff Molina. Okay?
I remember this fight. Yeah.
If you're watching this and you know who Jeff Molina is, and you've seen Jeff Molina fight, that should give you 110% confidence that Raul Rosas is not dropping one this weekend. Because there's two guys sitting in this living room, and I think both of them could beat up Jeff Molina. So if Aoriqileng can't do it down a weight class,
I don't know.
and
Dude.
Rosas is kind of a weight bully too. I know
for sure. He's massive.
He's like smaller than his frame suggests it will be, obviously because he's a fucking child right now. But he's just gonna ragdoll that guy. That guy's really like way smaller than him and doesn't have grappling skills. Like it's actually probably his easiest matchup in the UFC so far, and he's had 4 fights already
over Terrence Mitchell.
It's like that easy. It's like it's that guy has no grappling skills and he's really tiny, and he lost to Jeff Molina. So this
Jeff Molina had the game plan
right on.
I don't know if Jeff Molina could beat me if James Krause was leaking my game plans before the fight, but no, look, there's 2 ways to look at this. One is that the UFC has set up the golden brick road for Raul Rosas. The other is that the guy is 19, and not that he deserves to be getting this treatment, but he's 19, and it makes sense for the UFC to be starting him off softly. I mean, O'Malley was 4 in before he fought a rank.
Literally feed him 15 cans over the next 5 years. Like, who cares? He's going to be 25 in 5 years. Who cares?
Yeah. So I didn't even write down the odds for this, but I think we can both be on Rosas pretty easily.
It's not even close.
Aoriqileng, I mean, 3-3 in the UFC means that he's not. Terrence Mitchell would.
Jeremy, he lost to Jeff Molina. Can we move on? This guy sucks. Dude.
Fighting next is Daniel Zellhuber.
Yes.
I actually really like Zellhuber.
Yeah. He's hot. He's hot too. He's a good looking guy.
No, he's a good. I have that in my notes. I have that written.
Yeah,
I have good look. I have good looking right here.
Maybe Jeff Molina's not so bad.
Maybe Jeff Molina might be interested. Zellhuber's the favorite, coming off of a decision against Francisco Prado and a very impressive sub against Christos Giagos. The last time Grasso and Shevchenko met up, I believe it was Mexican Independence Day last year. I believe it was the same weekend that
Correct.
they fought. Yeah, okay. Zellhuber, 25, suspiciously German name for a South American. Mexican American, but I'll just leave that where it is. Yeah. We'll just
no comment.
25, 15-1, and 3-0 since he dropped his UFC debut. He's a little, he stands very tall kicking. He's got a little bit of a Yair Rodriguez base in him, where the kicks really are his striking approach. The hands are live as well. But looking at this matchup, and I'm sorry I gave disrespect to Esteban Ribovics, who head kicked Terrence McKinney into oblivion. He is good.
He's good.
He swings and he's good. Head kicked, had a nice punch to head kick right behind it combo, a la Gaethje Poirier, a la Leon Usman against my boy Terrence McKinney, who is about to get cut.
That's right. Yeah.
And but what's your first thoughts on the matchup?
Look, this is so I know Zellhuber's 25 and he's a young cat, and so typically what you want to do with a young cat with a good record, has potential, is like build them up slowly, like we were talking about what they were doing with Rosas. And that's what they do with a lot of people, and it makes sense. But sometimes there's instances like this where and I give the UFC credit for doing this, where you've got the biggest card they've ever created, and are sinking a ton of money into it. And, they've got the whole Mexican flavor of things. And so one of
the story of the Mexican warrior.
One of the kids is Mexican. And so you can't just have over and over, like, the up and coming Mexican kid go out and dominate. Like, that wouldn't be a good card. Like, there needs to be exciting fights on the card, and this is actually a really, really exciting fight. Because it's even, and B, because they're both similar style strikers. I give Zellhuber small edge, but this is like, and I don't think this is, I haven't seen anybody say this, but I doubt it's a hot take at all. This is likely fight of the night. Like it's that, unless, we can talk about this, but Ortega might just get the shit beat out of him for 3 rounds and then win somehow.
Throw a sub up.
Maybe that'll be exciting. But this definitely, this has like very, very high bonus potential given the style of the two guys. And they're both very good too. So it should be really exciting to watch.
Zellhuber is very aesthetically pleasing. I'm not talking about his looks. He's a good looking guy.
Both looks and fighting.
In fighting, I mean, he stands very, he stands very tall when he goes for that head kick and he goes for it early. It's not much of a, he doesn't try to set it up before he throws it. He's throwing it early and it comes in fast while he's fresh. I think the one thing we haven't seen from him is a chin, and I'm not saying he doesn't have one, but I just haven't seen it tested too much. Where Esteban Ribovics can,
that's tough, dude, right there.
He can crack. He can crack. Yeah, and he's skilled. So Zellhuber minus 235. Ribovics. I think Ribovics has
I'm
a little.
surprised Zellhuber's favored by that much.
I was going to say
like popularity money coming in on the guy that people know because
it's that male OnlyFans money.
Yeah, I wouldn't take that. I mean, I even said I lean him. I don't think I'd take him at that price if I'm out there.
I think Ribovics is live at plus 190, but I also think Zellhuber, this is a star-making opportunity. Sure. I think the UFC positioned this. Yeah, I think it positioned this as a competitive fight, swing and bang, and also that this is going to be one of the highest bought pay-per-views of the year, right? And the fact that he's as high as he is on the card suggests they really want him to be a star. And I hate to keep saying it, he's a good-looking guy. You
need the girls clipping him on TikTok after he wins or something.
Absolutely,
like He'll blow up.
Your man could never. We're going straight into the co-main, which is actually my fight of the night. I'm very, very excited for a fight that I think is mispriced, but is going to be a banger almost positively. I think there's very few fights where I felt as confident that it was going to be a banger in recent history as this one. And that is Brian Ortega, featherweight stalwart, against the upstart Diego Lopes. Diego is currently a minus 175 favorite. Ortega, the dog, at about plus 150. This is Ortega's swan song at 45. If all goes well, he will move up to 55 lightweight after this fight. And so this is his goodbye to the division. They were scheduled to fight previously. Obviously, I forgot what card it was on, but obviously they're supposed to fight. Dan Ige stepped in for Ortega on like 7 hours notice. Shout out to him. But it sounds like Ortega's having a tough time making the cut or just doesn't want to anymore. So this fight also guaranteed is the highest cumulative jiu-jitsu player skill level I've ever seen.
Off the top of my head, at least from a mixed martial arts submission style jiu-jitsu, yes. Although it is interesting to say that the week after
maybe Burns Maya, maybe.
Sure, right. But from MMA
Brady Maya
submission style jiu-jitsu, yes, I agree.
Give me your introduction for Diego Lopes.
Just Lopes?
Just Lopes.
I mean, he's fucking awesome.
Has a great haircut.
He's fucking awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine him being in a boring fight, this matchup or any other matchup. Like, if he's on the feet, he just wants to swing hooks that could either land really hard or he could get, which I think is going to happen one day, he could just get straight 1-2. Like, I mean, if that guy fought Ilia Topuria, I mean, it would be ugly. It would be bad because the fastest 1-2 would come down the pipe and he'd be out. So, striking is exciting. And then if he finds his way on the ground, whether he's on top or on bottom, he's probably the most active guy from bottom in the UFC right now.
Yep.
I say that with respect to Oliveira, but I really don't think it's even close, to be honest with you. Like, that guy is a fucking fiend from the bottom.
He's one of the few, if not the only guy that's so comfortable from the back that he's happy to be there, and it's okay.
And should be, because frankly, being on bottom in MMA, I know it's different story in jiu-jitsu, like competitive jiu-jitsu, but being on bottom in MMA is not a fucking advantage. Like, top control is not a good optic, and when you're getting hit in the face, I mean, I don't need to fucking point that out. But so usually these guys, like, you see these guys like accept being on bottom because they're so comfortable with how jiu-jitsu is in the gym. And then they lose these fights, even though they, like, you know, try to toss up a couple triangles, maybe a couple slicing elbows from the bottom, but it's just not enough. This guy is like maybe the only guy in the entire promotion where I'm like, oh, he's on bottom. Like, he might get something right here. And it's because he's done it over and over.
Yeah, right.
Just in a short career so far. So I don't even know if Ortega on top will be an advantage as good as Ortega is on top.
Okay. Well, okay.
Well, I didn't say I don't know. I said
You said
yes, I did. That's exactly what I said.
That's actually what came out of your mouth. Yeah.
I'm just not positive is what I meant.
I think we both fell in love with Diego Lopes when he was a short notice fill-in for Evloev, and he had Evloev in trouble 3 times. He had him in a deep knee bar round 1, maybe. He had him in 2 deep subs, and he hurt him on the feet. And he was something like a plus 600, plus 700 dog, maybe. And what you see in that is usually your Raul Rosas versus Terrence Mitchell, where the guy doesn't deserve to be there. Short notice. It's a guy from another promotion that says, or who's the guy? Val Woodburn. That's another one. It's a guy that
bodybuilder.
It's when a guy can get his promotional debut and he just seizes the opportunity. He doesn't really care that he's going to get manhandled. Diego Lopes actually brought it to Evloev, and Evloev, I think, is the boogeyman at 45 and put up a fight. Ortega, the underdog, is a guy that methodically worked his way up the division, knocked out really spelled the end for Frankie Edgar. And look, he got dominated for 25 minutes against Volkanovski, but Volkanovski slipped one time, and Ortega jumped on the deepest triangle, the deepest sub I've ever seen not result in someone going to sleep. 25 minutes, he had 2 subs, both looked like they were going in. That's the thing with Ortega. You give him an inch, he might just take a mile. His boxing has come a long, long way. He used to be a strict jiu-jitsu player and was competitive on the feet against Yair Rodriguez in their rematch recently, his last win and his last fight. He was very impressive, I thought, against Yair. He shows, to me, a Mount Rushmore of active chins in the UFC, one of the best chins.
Maybe the best.
Yeah.
Maybe the best.
It's ridiculous. And that will be put to the test this weekend because Lopes throws kind of Gilbert-esque only fucking hooks. I mean, only power. He'll throw one too, but he likes to wing those hooks. And Ortega will get caught, and Ortega will eat one. I don't know how many he can eat, but I think this is a disrespectful line. I do. Ortega's the 3rd ranked guy. Ortega's the 3rd ranked. Lopes is the 13th ranked. Not to say that means, that doesn't mean Ortega is better, but you saw Diego Lopes come in on 7 hours notice against Danny Ige. And look, probably the craziest fight circumstances ever in UFC history, but it was not a dominating performance. And if we're talking about a guy that's going to be ranked number 3 at featherweight, you'd kind of want him to dominate Danny Ige, be able to roll out of bed and do it. All respect to Dan. Diego's a savage, but I think that this line, Ortega could be a dog, but for it to be this significant, when we've seen so many times jiu-jitsu players and wrestlers, when they're both high level, it just neutralizes and plays out on the feet. I think Ortega is a little bit crisper, a little bit more technical. I don't think either guy will put the other out of there. I think he'll actually go to decision, but It's going to be fireworks. Who do you have here?
I'm not as convinced as you are, but if I had to pick somebody, I'd probably go Ortega. I think if Lopez won, it would be by finish because that's just how
Sub
Lopez
or
frankly went. No, I think he'd knock him out. I think it'd have to be on the feet because he's so like I don't see Ortega getting subbed because he's so high level on the ground that I don't think either of them was. I want to see them grapple, but I don't see a submission on either end. But I think Lopez could knock him out. The problem is, and I was just saying it, he leaves himself so open.
Ortega?
No. Lopez.
Lopez.
With just these fucking crazy hooks, dude. And like, man, they're powerful and they've treated him well so far, but eventually you face the top guys in the world in your division.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned Ortega's boxing has gotten a lot better. He's obviously not,
He's never going to be Ilya. Yeah, he's never going to be a
top
striker.
guy, but is it good enough?
It was good enough against Yair.
To counter, yeah. Well, I don't think it was the striking that did it against Yair, but
No,
I think
he stood. Though.
If Ortega wins this fight, which I'm gonna pick him to do, not too confidently, but I'm gonna pick him. I think it's gonna be on the feet because of his chin and chin cardio, and Lopez just goes fucking hard. He goes so hard, and you saw him gassing out in the Ige fight. And if that fight went, and I will say to give Lopez a little bit of a pass here, Ige weighed in at 165 that day. Like if he didn't have to cut weight, that's completely unfair advantage. But anyways, he was gassing out in round 3 of that fight, bad. To the point where if that was 5 rounds, it would have been over. Like, I don't even think he would have made it to the finish line. And Ortega's cardio and chin are so fucking good that it's likely he will lose round 1. I almost can't even imagine Ortega winning round 1 of any fight he ever fights in. But he's so fucking tough. Lopez's ground skills, which obviously are dangerous against most people, aren't going to be that useful in this fight against a legitimate jiu-jitsu instructor. I think Ortega's boxing does it, and I think Ortega wins by decision because of his jab and because of his chin.
That is a somewhat rare occurrence on the pod. Complete across the board unanimous decision for Ortega's boxing in a decision. I think that it comes down to volume versus power, and I'm always willing to bet on volume round winning over power. And I think that I'd love to see him grapple. I would love them to just roll around like snakes for 15 minutes. That'd be awesome. But I don't think it will happen. And I think that the consistent volume of Ortega, the pace, is going to outweigh the inevitable kind of one. Lopez is going to wing one and it's finally going to hit, and Ortega is going to wobble and go to the fence, and then they're going to grapple, and then it'll be fine. You know, so
that's every Ortega fight.
Yeah, yeah. Ortega's not much of an offensive wrestling threat. He was against Yair. It's come around later in his career. Early on, he wasn't. But again, I don't see him. Fighters have to be a little delusional. I think that he sees himself as having the advantage on the feet and being crisp.
Has to. There's no reason he should want to go to the ground, and there's no reason Lopez should want to go to the ground because he's not going to be on top against Ortega. So
neither. We're going to a fight of 2 crushes. Alexa Grasso is the crush of the MMA community. Recently took the belt from my crush, Valentina Shevchenko. Took it 2 fights ago, but Shevchenko was winning the fight through an I even hate to say this is so cliche. I've heard it a million times. Through an ill-advised spinning back kick. Guess who Alexa Grasso's jiu-jitsu coach is? That's right. it's Diego Lopes, who we just talked about. But Grasso comes in at a minus 140 favorite. Shevchenko plus 110. This is a trilogy, J-Man. Jonah, in another lifetime, Shevchenko was up there with Habib and Usman as kind of these unassailable champions. Has she lost that luster to you?
Yeah. And I was the biggest advocate of Shevchenko being the GOAT of women's MMA. And I know that's not going to go down well with some because Nunes beat
Nunes beat
twice.
350-pound women that can't fight.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And by the way, I think,
no offense to women, just to the bantamweight division, which is absolute dumpster fire.
Well, I thought Valentina beat her in the second fight anyways. It's considered one of the worst decisions in the sport's history.
That was at 35, right?
Yeah. And it's up a weight class. So, whatever. Bygones. But I considered Shevchenko that good, and man, it's kind of been tough to watch the last few ones. Like, especially that first cross. Even though she was winning, like it's like I don't know what happened to her. Like she looks so hesitant these days, and she used to look so damn sharp on the feet. And then if it went to the ground, she was just so much stronger than any girl she fought, and like. Grasso has seemingly had the advantage on the feet in each of their fights, which is wild to me. Like, how Shevchenko doesn't have the advantage on the feet versus any woman in the sport is crazy. If you told me that 3 years ago, I would have said you're fucking insane.
Yeah.
But she does. Grasso does. And then Shevchenko really, like, is not that dominant on the ground. Like it's not that easy for her to get a takedown. It's not that no. Like she's good, but it's not like I mean if she was, she would have won the last two fights. And like instead it was just sort of this like first one was like 2-1 we think, and then that second fight was boring.
Oh, I thought that second fight was a clear Shevchenko win.
Really?
Clear. Yeah, I thought it was clear.
I don't think I felt. Even if
you didn't think it was a draw,
I think I thought Shevchenko won, but I was not that impressed. So I didn't feel strongly about either girl winning. Like she got robbed or anything. So
I think she clearly got robbed. Not clearly. I think she got robbed. I think that it was Noche night. I think that at the end of round 5, which was the deciding round, a judge gave her a 10-8 because Grasso slipped off her and ended up, reversed on top and landed ground and pound until the bell, basically. Right. Yeah. And the crowd was going fucking nuts. Excuse my language. And I think that was, a 10-8 in that round. That's why I'm so religious about this, I guess. I don't have a strong feeling about the fight. I think Shevchenko won, but I am religious about that was not a 10-8 in round 5 for Grasso. What you said, I have to disagree with. Shevchenko has matured into an kind of explosive wrestling force in my mind.
It used to be way better. It used to be way better.
The wrestling used to be better, or everything used to be better?
Everything, including the wrestling.
She used to put people in the crucifix. No, yeah. She put people in the crucifix.
Was dominant wherever the fight went. And now she's good. She's still one of the best in the world, but it's not what it used to be.
I think that's a reflection of the talent level getting better. That she's not able to put people in the crucifix anymore. It's like Ronda getting people in an armbar.
I'm sure it's part of the equation, but Shevchenko does not look the same at all.
Grasso deserves plaudits, and Diego Lopes too for continued improvement on the ground. But rewatched fight 2. We have a takedown trip in round 1, a double in round 2. When she got wobbled over 2 minutes of ground time, double to a single in round 3. Nearly got Grasso out of there with a submission. Multiple minutes of ground time. Round 4, Grasso took her down, and then lost position, and then another Shevchenko trip in round 4. I think that the thing, if you're going to bet or pick a winner, is what you look for is volume or wrestling. I think that Shevchenko has established an advantage in wrestling. Now, Shevchenko, back when she was kicking Jessica I in the head, right, and throwing, shout out to Nate Diaz, back when she was throwing spinning fit all over the place, she did look unbeatable. She was unbeatable. I don't think she's that anymore, but she was up, I thought, clearly 2-1 in the first fight. I think she won the second fight. I'm a heavy Shevchenko, especially at a dog price. Now, I will give Vegas props. They don't make her too much of a dog. -140, +110. Usually you wouldn't get those odds on a trilogy. But it's a volume versus wrestling and precision game. Shevchenko you would take at distance. Grasso has better volume, more. She offers more. The boxing is really good. Remember she floored Valentina round 2.
Big time.
But even if Valentina just turns into a wrestling cyclone, and hits that range, I like that.
I can't believe I'm saying this. I have Grasso though.
Oh my
And
God.
I don't like it. I'm a big Valentina fan, and I still think Prime Valentina was the best woman to ever fight. It's just maybe it's my disappointment in what I've seen in the last 3 fights, because she's a shell of herself. Way too patient, hesitant. Grasso looks like she's having fun and aggressive. I think Grasso's going to win.
This is massive from J-Man.
Yeah.
J-Man is the biggest Valentina shareholder for years. So I actually couldn't believe that that's the call.
And I don't feel supremely confident about that. I will be rooting for Valentina to go out there and look like the Valentina of old, but it's just my gut feeling that Grasso I think that Valentina's gone.
Well, I mean, even now I'm trying to do damage control for you as if you're talking to her. Even for you to say she's a shell, and I think that she won the last fight and she was winning the first fight. For her to be a shell and look that good still speaks to her absolute skill and longevity.
One of the best, but it didn't used to be close. It didn't used to be close. That's Valentina I know.
When Valentina's won a round against Grasso these last 2 fights, it's almost always been as a result of a takedown, and then she holds Grasso down for that. Had to be a big point of Grasso's training camp, I have to imagine, getting up from bottom, because she hasn't been very good at it. It's really been when Valentina's gone for a submission transition where she's trying to do something else, or that's when Grasso can slip out. But man, I love a fighter who can just sit on top of you for rounds. And I'm gonna go Valentina dog.
It's fair. It's probably a good underdog. I mean, Valentina being an underdog. If you told me that 2 years ago, I'd said take a second mortgage out on your home.
I'm pretty sure she was a favorite in the second fight. I'm almost positive.
Slight.
I think it was 185. I think. Anyway,
it might have crept up, but it's open to slight.
Speaking of slight advantages in the betting markets, we go to our fight of the night, the main event. It is the Georgian, and no, not the SEC Georgian. That's the country of Georgia, right next to Dagestan. Merab Dvalishvili against Las Vegas and Arizona's very own Sugar Sean O'Malley. This is a fight that is a top 3 fight of the year. Agree or disagree?
Disagree.
Great. Anyway, Sugar Sean has a chance to establish, for me, the start of one of the best bantamweight reigns of all time. He beat Aljo, who was the reigning best bantamweight, who, by the way, when we say best bantamweight, that division GOAT carries less weight than any other division, because we haven't seen a truly dominant champion there. But Aljo was Aljo your bantamweight GOAT at the time?
I don't think you can give it to anybody else anymore.
Yeah. So to beat Aljo and then to fight his teammate Merab, who has just absolutely dominated. I mean, let me give you an idea of how dominant Dvalishvili has been. Sugar Sean, Jonah and I watched Sugar Sean beat Piotr Jan by a razor-thin split decision. I mean, we thought that Sugar won, but it was close as can be, and we were bated breath.
I'll remember them reading out that decision for the rest of my life with you.
Sure.
We were both. I think Sean. I think
it was Sean. Razor thin. Merab then fought Piotr Jan in a 5-rounder. Attempted 47 takedowns, something like that. He won 50-45, which means he won every single round. That is absolutely nuts. Peter Yan, I thought for a long time was a top 5 fighter on the UFC roster. I kind of still think he's top 10, honestly, but
That's another day.
right after the Sean Brady. Right after the Sean Brady. Merab Dvalishvili has made people look silly, absolutely silly, and he is, I think, before we talk a lot about Magomed Ankalaev deserves a 205 title shot. A year ago, Jonah and I were on the phone laughing our asses off that Merab didn't get the title shot. Like, this guy has deserved it for a long while, and he's finally getting it. Jonah, this started as Merab pretty heavily favored. It is now flipped to Sugar Sean O'Malley. Has your thinking dovetailed with that? Are you starting to think that Sugar should be a favorite, or at least is a very, very competitive second?
The line opened accurately. And it wasn't that disrespectful to Sean. I think he opened at like plus 190, I want to say. And I kind of thought that was right. And that's because I think Sean has a good chance to knock him out. Because he's so much damn bigger than him, so much bigger and longer, and obviously faster, and Merab leaves himself open. And now that this fight's been booked for however long it's been booked for, forget how long it's been booked for. Everybody knew this was the fight, and it was probably going to happen this month or next month. That analysis of Sean's advantage, finding an opening and knocking him out, has been taken too far, to the point where, what does he sit at, minus 140 today? It's something like that.
Sean is minus 135.
Yeah. Which is crazy, to be honest. And I don't think, this is a hot I want Sean to win. Everybody wants Sean to win. Like, why?
I don't.
What? Really? You don't?
Really?
I mean, he
Actually, that's a fucking lie. I definitely want Sean.
It's just way better for the sport if Sean wins, especially on this big of a stage. I don't think either of us is some huge O'Malley fan, but like we root for the sport pretty hard, and like O'Malley being champ, God, is it better than Merab being champ? And O'Malley's fights are really, really fun.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
But I think this is ridiculous. I think a lot of time has gone by since some of Merab's performances, particularly March 2023, when he took Peter Yan to fucking school.
Oh my God, guys!
And
you don't understand. This is like
to school. Took him to school. Took the best bantamweight in the world to school for 25 minutes.
This was kind of like the AI crossover on Jordan, but if Jordan ruptured both knees during the crossover.
What an interesting analogy. It's really nothing against Sean. Like I've thought for a while, even before he started beating good guys, I was like, I don't think Sean's just some like clown like I think about Patty. Like I think he's like really good.
Which also hasn't aged well, by the way.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know. Well, that's TBD.
We'll see.
but Sean's the champ, which he deserves it based on his performances. But the bill ends here because anybody outside of Umar and maybe we don't need to get into that. I don't think. Beating Merab is a really, really tough test for someone, especially someone who can't wrestle as well as like a Nurmagomedov. So
I think the best fighter to not hold the belt right now.
Sure. I mean, resume-wise, it's undebatable. It's fucking insane. You think he's going to get it, though?
Great question. I think that the pressure that he puts on guys is not like Aljo. Aljo put on pressure to Sean. He wanted to be in his face, but it was still at length. I think Aljo was a little scared of the long range sniping. Merab doesn't care. I mean, we saw, if you want to bet Merab, watch the Marlon Moraes fight versus Merab. Merab gets knocked out once, maybe twice, and does not care. Continues to go in, actually continues to stand on the feet for a little bit, and then goes in and grapples, and eventually, takes him down. I think the Merab pressure is so much different from Aljo or anybody else in the sport. He attempted 47 takedowns against Peter Yan. It might be 49. I can't remember which one it is. He attempted 45 plus takedowns against Peter Yan. I mean, if you don't watch the sport, that's a hard number to quantify. It's insane. It's like Ohtani hitting 78 home runs. I mean, it blew the record out of the water by, I think, like 40%. I think Dvalishvili is going to pressure. I think he's going to get takedowns. Yan took down O'Malley 6 times in their fight, okay? Dvalishvili took Yan down 11 times in their fight. And Yan, I think, has got better TDD, takedown defense. I think it's really, really hard. I know where the line movement's coming from, and so do you.
Is it the IFC? International Fraternity Committee?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, I'm not even in with the frat bros like that.
That might not even be what IFC stands for, by the way.
It's the frat bro commission. That's, if nothing else, I would bet this.
Bro, I am parlaying O'Malley with the Steelers this weekend.
Did you see what he did to Aljo? They're best friends. It's going to be the same thing. I mean, Merab is such more of a scary matchup than Aljo was, and Aljo was already a scary matchup. You get taken down 6 times versus Yan. This guy takes down Yan 11 times. There's no doubt, unless it's a instantaneous knockout, that Merab's getting takedowns, and I think he gets 5 at least.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Merab is, and again, I think people are discounting this, like Yan was even a harder matchup for Merab than O'Malley's going to be, I think. And Yan, as good as he is, literally did not even have time to get shots off because Merab was so in his face over and over with takedowns. Like, Peter would take one breath and he'd have Merab around his waist again. Like, I don't think O'Malley's smaller. He doesn't have as good a takedown.
What's very important is not even if you defend the takedown, that's gassing you.
Yes.
Like, even if you win the, like Conor Habib, even when Conor was defending the takedown, it was gassing him.
And it's not winning you the fight either. Like, if all you're doing is defending takedowns and you get no offense off, that's not a good optic. Like, I understand it's good in the sense that you defended it, but then you need to get to your own game plan. And Merab just doesn't let you get to your own game plan. Like, he just sticks on you. And it's not, it might not be that fun to watch for a lot of people, and I get it, especially if you're just waiting for O'Malley to fucking crack a guy. But, I mean, it's effective. And I don't think O'Malley's going to have a very fun time on Saturday.
I think I hate to keep bringing up Conor Habib because I think that was a seminal fight in UFC. I don't want to sound like a casual by continuing to reference it, but I think there's a lot of parallels with a guy that everybody wants to support. It's a flashy striker that is very fun to watch against the fundamentals of this guy's going to wrestle and he's going to take you down and he's going to have ground control. And there's like not much you can do about that. Even in that Habib-Conor fight, right? Habib was able to stand with Conor by the 3rd round. 3rd round was all on the feet because Conor was so fucking gassed by defending takedowns. And I'm sure that Sean has done nothing but defend takedowns his whole camp. But I have some inside information for you. That's from Henry Cejudo. He says that Sugar Sean is also not having a good camp this time around. Might be injured. Same thing with the – what, you don't like this?
It's Cejudo. It's Cejudo.
He was right about – well, okay. All right. But I think that when you have that takedown pressure, it really restricts your ability to get shots off, especially the long kind of sniper shots that O'Malley is so good at. Long kicks, long punches from the outside. I don't think he's going to have a lot of time on the outside, period.
He might knock him down in round 1. I think I said that to you offline. Yeah, I think he might knock him down once or twice.
Yeah.
And I don't. To your point, like in the Marias fight's a good example of this. I don't think it's going to matter with Merab. Like Merab could get his own 10-8 back to even out a 10-8 if he gets knocked down. That's how good he is.
No, I think if anyone's going to get a 10-8, it's Merab. But O'Malley gets that knockdown. There's so many avenues for Merab. I mean, do you see this going all the way? I have a tough time seeing this.
No, I really believe O'Malley's in for a really, really unenjoyable fight, as is anybody with Merab. There's not one guy after a fight with doesn't mean they get finished. There's not one guy after a fight. Think about Cejudo, Jan, and Aldo, all champions. Fight ends. Oh my god. What the fuck just happened to me? What the fuck just happened to me? I think O'Malley's gonna have a really, really hard night.
Well, we didn't even talk about Cejudo. Cejudo's a Olympic wrestler, gold medalist. Yeah, gold medalist, of course, CCC. And Merab picked him up, walked him across like a child, picked him up wrestling and walked him across the cage and said hi to Mark Zuckerberg.
This is Merab, like a child. And O'Malley is this big, this thick, as thick as my finger here. And I like him; he's great. But it just when you're talking about facing this guy, it's not going to go well. So
I think one of the scariest guys. It's the bantamweight version of Magomed Ankalaev, where we said this guy's deserved the title shot for so long. But I actually think Merab is better than Magomed, and I have a hard time seeing Suga win. I would love to see Suga win. No doubt better for the division. No doubt better for matchups and pay-per-views going forward.
Of course.
But here's the thing. Merab beats Suga. Dude, what do you do? I mean, what's next? Merab goes on at least a 4-fight belt streak.
Incorrect.
Oh, sorry. You're right. Well, okay.
Listen to this, and then we can talk about this down the road. But I think Sean matches up with Umar better than Merab does. Just if we're talking about percentage chance of winning the fight,
because you think there's a knockout.
I don't think there is a knockout, but I think Sean has more ways to win than Merab, because I don't think Merab's shit would work on Umar, but.
Merab is a little bit. Merab's a little bit different than Umar. Who knows who's the better wrestler? But Merab operates at that high speed cardio, where Umar operates. He's more willing to engage in the striking, as you saw in Sanhagen, and that's where
he's
it opens up.
Good at it.
Well, yeah,
he's
but
really good at it.
You'd rather go good for good and striking than good for.
Win.
Oh, I trained at Tim Walsh's academy for 6 months. You know? Yeah. All right, so the boys are united in Merab. We think there's value there. I think we both think there's more value in Merab than any fight on the card.
100%. And I don't like it. I will be rooting for Sean, but if you're talking strictly from a betting perspective, you got to take Merab.
Boys picks. Ortega, underdog. Shevchenko, underdog. Merab Dvalishvili.
Better than night, Merab. That's who you should put your money on. Most of your money on.
3 dogs, rare for the pod. That's not true, actually. We bet.
I got Grasso.
Yeah, you got Grasso.
That's a close one, though.
And we have to take a round of applause. Everyone, we didn't do a recap after UFC 305, but everyone, please give it up for Jonah predicting Dan Hooker to beat Gamrot. That was huge. Everyone, please. Yeah. One
That's
of the craziest picks.
Dan Hooker 3-rounder, man. You don't want to fuck with Dan Hooker in a 3-round.
Was that
fight.
a Chris Weidman reference?
You don't want, of course it was.
That's still my boy.
You don't want to fuck with Dan Hooker in a 3-round fight. That's my boy.
Yeah. All right. Fights are done. Picks are done. We have one more for you guys. That is the Mount Rushmore. Tonight, we're doing fighters outside the top 5 that will hold a belt in 2025 next year. At any point next year.
That don't currently have one.
That
Correct?
don't currently
Okay.
have. Yeah, that don't currently have the belt. Jonah, you have a lower T count than me. Why don't you start us off?
Hamzat, easy one. His next fight with Whitaker, if that does end up happening, is his toughest fight in the division. If he can get through that, I think he would probably win against Duplessis if they were to make that fight. I think he'd win that easily, actually.
Yeah.
Just the fact that he's that good and they want to catapult him to a title shot that quickly, it'd be foolish not to say he's like the top option for this prompt. So Hamzat for sure.
Yeah, I think especially because if he can get through Whitaker, who he's not likely to put the lights out on. Whitaker is chinny, is my boy, but very chinny. Hamzat's not likely to test that, in my opinion. So if he gets to Whitaker, that means that he's fucking well-rounded and it's got the wrestling is legit and all that. You know, stuff that we kind of already know, but especially at a new weight class, Whitaker would be the ultimate proof of that. So, good number 1 pick. Snake. I'm going to go Movsar Evloev, number 2.
Is he not in the top 5 at featherweight?
He's number 6.
Wow.
So this guy, I think, is probably the best 45-pounder from a who's going to win the fight perspective. Obviously, kind of sucks to watch, but he should get a title shot in 25, and I favor him against any of the 3 guys outside of Max. Actually, I favor Max, but I think I favor him over Topuria.
We've got heavy disagreements coming in 2025 then. Heavy.
Well,
I think he's great, but that's insane. That's insane.
Tune in to Teep Show 25,
Yeah, that's
and
right.
you'll be able to. Then second, man, stock is hot, and you'll like this one. You won't like my last one, but you will love Sean Brady being my pick for champion in 2025. He's number 6 now, and look, man, all he needs is a fight against Gary to solidify who's going to be the next top contender. I actually think that fight is going to happen as a, hey, prove it and you get the next title shot. And I don't think he'll beat Shavkat. I think Shavkat's going to beat Bilal next, but I like Brady against Bilal in a rematch. Or if he gets in a Shavkat fight, man, I mean, he's at least a 38% chance. So I'll take Brady.
Both a little outside the box here. One's not too bad. I think there's a good chance, not a good chance, but a chance that Pereira beats everybody at light heavyweight, and the only person left is Nikita Krylov.
I like that.
And
I like
you
that.
know I've been a big Nikita Krylov fan.
Jonah's been a massive Nikita Krylov fan for as long as I can remember. It was actually the first thing he said to me. He was like, "What's up, dude? I'm Jonah. I love Nikita Krylov."
He said the same thing to me about Jonathan Isaac in the same 10-second conversation.
We're gonna cut this.
So I think there's a chance. I mean, he's gonna do it to Roundtree next month. The catch is obviously he's going to have to beat Ankalaev for that fight to come true. But if we're talking about, taking bets on people that can be champions next year that aren't in the top 5, Krylov will be on a 4-fight win streak after he inevitably beats Azamat Murakanov later this year.
Look at the pronunciation on that. That's stuff that I aspire to, by the way.
That's right. No big deal. I think Krylov is the second best light heavyweight in the division, so he could win against literally anybody. I would take him over Pereira, big time. So
We should do a one-off just on the Brady comment and off that comment. That's crazy. You think you take him over Pereira?
100%. 100%. 100%. It would be a dirty night for Pereira.
This is the stuff we gotta put on TikTok, dude.
Unfortunately, they'll never make that fucking fight, but I hope so. My next pick, I'd feel way more comfortable.
Kyler Phillips.
I'd feel way more comfortable if we were talking 2026 champs. But just for the sake of this conversation, let's say they just throw him up there quick out of nowhere, like which they do, by the way. And he can just beat. He can beat like the guy ranked like 8 his next fight, and then he can beat the guy ranked 4, and then he gets a title shot, and that's Bo Nickel. And by the way, middleweight sucks, so they can do that pretty easily. Like you could just throw Bo Nickel in there against like not so good guys.
Against Jared King.
Yeah, and he'll beat him. So like, it'd be ridiculous to give him a title shot off of like Marvin Vettori or something like that. But like, they could do it because it's marketable and people want to see it. So I'm gonna go with Bo.
I actually took notes before this, and I didn't have Bo Nickel, so that I love that. That shows you that J-Man's just a savant. Yeah, off the dome. I'm kind of shocked this guy lasted this long. He's an absolute wrecking ball at heavyweight and has one loss, but is clearly the only guy with any upward momentum, sustained upward momentum. I don't see how Jelton Almeida doesn't get a title shot when the Aspinall era begins, which is going to be soon. I think it starts.
Almeida not in the top 5 at heavyweight.
Number 6.
Wow, you're getting all the 6s. You cheated. You cheated. You're getting all the
6s. I think. Would you have taken Jelton?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Well, because Jonah actually recently sucked off Tom Aspinall at a Brooklyn party, but I think that Jelton Almeida is not only in line, but scary. I don't think
Tom puts him in the dirt, and I sucked Tom off again after that fight because he puts him in the dirt so bad. It's enough.
Jelton won, and I'm gonna go with a deep cut here. I'm gonna say Brian Ortega, and I don't love this, but I think it makes sense, and I'll tell you why. Brian Ortega is currently in the top 5. He's number 3 featherweight, but he's moving up to the lightweight after this. And I'll tell you this: Islam's running out of people to fight. He's going to fight Arman in early 2025. Let's say that Lopes gets knocked in a convincing fashion, like a nice 1, 2, 3 or something. Then Ortega moves up to lightweight. He's got one fight before he could fight Michael Chandler. I mean, he'll be like Max. Max got Gaethje for number 3. I think Ortega can land pretty high up. He can take a big fight with somebody early on, and I think that Islam will seize on that opportunity for a guy that he can beat easy. And then once they get in a fight, I'll take the 30% chance or whatever it is that Ortega beats Islam. Although that would be ugly.
It's a fair pick.
Yeah. So
all right. I just confirmed my rankings here.
Okay.
I'm gonna say I don't know how Gary's ranked 7, honestly.
Because he's a bitch.
He is a bitch.
Because he's a
bitch. But I'll tell you what, bitches get title shots because they get people watching because people are rooting against them, and I'm one of those people, and you're one of those people. And he's good. So good.
You kind of like Gary, though, no?
As in terms of skills, or as a person, because certainly not the latter.
The skills.
Yeah. I mean, he's great. And I think I said earlier, I think I'd take Brady over Gary, but like that fight's not even close to happening. Like Brady, nobody outside of the fucking tri-state area knows who Brady is, and Gary has haters all over the world. So I think he could get a title shot off of one more win, and if they give him a somewhat easy matchup at the top, then I might even, I don't know. I'd have to. Gary Bilal is down the line, but I kind of like Gary's chances there. So I'm gonna take Gary. And then
Okay.
as my last pick, there's a real flyer, but you inspired me with your featherweight pick at lightweight.
Don't
I'm
do it.
doing
Don't
it.
take the guy
I'm
out.
doing it.
No,
I'm
no, no,
doing
no,
it.
no, no, no,
I
no,
think
no.
Max will be the only person left for Islam to fight at 155. And especially if Max has the 145 belt and the BMF belt, and he does some shit like beat Ilya impressively,
Beat some
after
bad.
having
Yeah.
like the highlight KO against Gaethje earlier this year. I mean, who's left?
Who wouldn't take that fight? Who wouldn't
that's
take
gotta
that
happen.
fight?
So I'm gonna take Max, and Max is amazing. So like, Max can win any fight he's in. So
I've felt this with a bunch of them. It's like you try to get them to the championship, and then you say, "Yeah, you roll the dice."
exactly,
Like Ortega.
exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
you know, what am I going
What's
to do
the
with
path?
Ortega?
Yeah.
Ortega Makachev. It's like, yeah, it doesn't look good, but I'll take the
Exactly.
17%
Yeah, exactly.
chance. Or my last pick is going to be. Oh no, I'm done. I think my honorable mention is my favorite fighter of all time, Benoit Saint-Denis. I think that he's
He's
established.
gonna get a title shot next year after he loses to Moicano later this month.
Shut your mouth.
I've got Moicano later this month.
By the way, yeah, I
Foreshadowing.
got BSD. That's Teep Show 17, but I think BSD is because he fought Poirier. They've shown that they're willing to advance him, and also because he's fought Poirier, people at the top are willing to fight him because he's a dude. He won round one. I mean, I say that I don't mean to be trite, but he looked good against Poirier until he didn't, and I think that opens up people at the top to fight him. I think you said this to me offline. He wins this fight. He fights Gamrot, which no one wants to fight. And if he beats
Wins that
Gamrot,
easy,
then
by the way. BSD wins that fight easy, in my opinion.
I agree. I thought Gamrot was kind of the boogeyman before the Hook fight, but that's on me.
It's just
And,
Hooker. That's how Hooker rolls, baby. That's my boy. Three-round Hooker.
Hey,
They gotta pick BSD's next fight right if he beats Moicano, which I don't even know if that's gonna happen. But like, Gamrot's an easy fight. Fiziev is a nightmare of a fight. Of a fight for BSD. So they gotta pick that one right for him if they want to build him up.
But I think that they will. I think that they want to pick it right because they put him against Poirier. I mean, they obviously have some equity invested in this guy. You know,
Sure.
So that's it. Let us know who you like, what Mount Rushmore you like. This is Teep Show 7. I'm Alex. This is your boy J-Man. We're killing it over here, and we'll see you guys soon. Go Merab.